Welcome to It's Giving Luxury podcast hosted by Wealth and Wellness by T. Thank you guys for tuning in. The title of today's episode is called Defining Luxury Beyond Material Wealth. So first and foremost, my name is Tori and I am the founder of Wealth and Wellness by T. Wealth and Wellness by T is a digital marketing wellness brand focusing on self-care, wellness, spirituality, and luxury living. I'm a 29-year-old female living in Metro Atlanta. I am a 200-hour registered yoga instructor, an energy worker, a public health professional, and an intuitive bridge among all things holistic. So why this topic? Why are we defining luxury living beyond material wealth? Well, I like to define luxury in a new light, from a new perspective. Before I moved back home to Georgia, I was living in St. Thomas for 2 years. St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands. I moved to St. Thomas based on a preconceived notion that I'd be drowning in so much money that I could afford it. What an awakening I had. Once that preconceived notion started to dissipate, I kept fighting against it. I was in denial and going against the natural ebbs and flows of life. And within me, this caused resentment, bitterness, depression, unhappiness, and stagnancy. After much time passed in that mindset, I had to let go and let God, as they say. I had to shift my mindset to a new perspective and surrender to the waves of the chapter I was currently in. I remember having this song called The Waves We Give by a beautiful chorus on repeat for weeks. I was just aimlessly listening to the song for weeks, not even really paying attention to the lyrics. Then one day, after speaking to my therapist and she encouraged me to change my perspective, I went to the beach and floated in the ocean before work, and everything just clicked. Even in water, supported by the buoyancy of my body, I was still tense and rigid, causing me to actually descend. And so when I went back home to get ready for work, Spirit led me to look up the lyrics of the song, like out the blue, The Waves We Give, that's been on repeat over these last few weeks. And I tell you not, these lyrics literally said, "Be like water, my friend. You shall find a way around or through it. When nothing within us stays rigid, we decide the shape we're in, empty your mind, be shapeless, formless like water. It can flow or it can crash." When I read these lyrics, I was blown away. This whole time, subconsciously, really, Spirit, God, whatever you want to call it, has been leading me to listen to the song to comfort me in my woes, in my trials and tribulations. But it wasn't until I went to the beach that it all clicked. In that moment, I became receptive. And although, we can discuss this in another episode, this really highlights the receptivity that nature can provide when we are blocked. And so from that point on, I surrendered and accepted that this is where I'm at in my life. And if I just flow, God will move me to my desired destination, peace and prosperity. I became more connected with my coworkers. I didn't take my toxic work drama too seriously anymore. And I just became more content. I will admit, though, I did go through a phase of stagnancy. But in time, that drew to a close. And then I went on to the next chapter of my life. And I tell this story because when you're not at war with yourself, blessings can come in. Abundance, really, and they did. So because of my personal connection to this topic, I like to encourage you to think of luxury in a new way. Beyond finances, beyond clothes and shoes and property. All of that will come. But for now, what type of energy or mindset is necessary to attract that? Or if you don't care about material wealth, what is needed to attract peace, emotional balance, healthy relationships, and oneness with your higher power? Whether you align more with the former or the latter, I like to refer to it as your heaven on earth. To add a little more context to the story that I opened up with, around the same time my therapist told me to change my perspective, she also suggested a couple of books and podcasts to listen to in my spare time, because while I was at peace and no longer enduring an internal battle between myself and my circumstances, I did become stagnant and bored with life. So I've never been a big drinker, and living on an island, I was surrounded by alcohol. So after work on weekends, I would just watch Netflix or scroll on my phone. And I knew I couldn't keep that up for long periods of time. So then I began to cope with food and sleep. And then eventually I took my therapist's advice and started with 2 podcasts, a spiritual one called Next Level, and then a business one called It's Giving Rich, which actually was the inspiration for this title. I only listened to one episode of Next Level featuring Kaya Ra, a new age spiritual teacher, and that blew me away. I ended up purchasing her book called The Sophia Code, and that was really my new coping mechanism for like a month until I finished. The other podcast, I listened to about 7 or 8 episodes, and that's what really caused me to shift and decide to move back. Although both podcasts were completely different, it was like a light bulb went off. I reverted back to my more expansive and growth-oriented mindset that I really had my entire life. It just became dormant when life started lifing. So after my morning routine of meditation, making my bed, and sometimes yoga, I listen to It's Giving Rich while getting ready for work. Considering my job was only a 10 to 15 minute drive and the episodes were at least 45 minutes, I had to jump on it early to finish an episode before I got to work. All of the information wasn't completely new. Like, I had used their advice in my own life before. The hosts were around my age, they were people of color, and they were very relatable. They were funny. It was inspiring and lightheartening to listen to. I really didn't need to listen to the other 7 or 8 episodes really after the first one. But I told myself, okay, St. Thomas is not it. And I really didn't need to listen to the other 7 or 8 episodes really after the first one, because I told myself, okay, St. Thomas is not it, and I have to get out of here after that first one. So I had 2 options. I could continue to be in this constricted and toxic work environment, or I could leave and take a leap of faith in hopes of finding something more expansive and in alignment. I went with the latter. So probably over the next few days, I called my mom and spoke to her about moving back home. Obviously, it was okay. It's just that she had just moved in with her mom, my grandma and grandfather, due to a separation. And so I'd be sharing a room with my mother and living with my grandparents, which means no privacy. But at this point, anything was better than living in St. Thomas for my own sanity. And at the end of the day, nothing beats home. This is where the next shift came. When my material world started to align with my mindset for something better, something more in alignment. After I got the okay from my mom, I started selling my belongings on Facebook Marketplace. I was earning, on average, an extra $60 to $100 a week. Money was the last thing I'd been worried about. Over those next few weeks, I probably looked at my bank account 3 times compared to every day like before I started to sell. It was so easy. Money was just flowing. It was like Spirit was rewarding me for my decision. I don't know about you guys, but selling is not easy. I don't know if it was because I was on an island, but it was such a smooth process. I didn't sell everything I wanted to sell, but most of it. From one of the tips and tricks to attracting wealth from the It's Giving Rich podcast, giving to charity was one of them. So with everything I did not sell, I just gave it away. I sold my car, and that was another $4,000. Now, Once I purchased the ticket back home, that one-way ticket, I learned that I can get all the money that I paid into the government of the Virgin Islands retirement system because I was employed for less than 5 years. And that equated to another $4,000 to $5,000. I was elated. It was like money was just coming out the woodwork. Money from the government, money from car insurance that I didn't use, money from my mailbox at the post office, money from selling. It was great. It was phenomenal. To me, this was a confirmation that I was on the right path. The days of struggle were behind me because literally my entire time there was a financial struggle. So seeing how this money, was just flowing, it was like, okay, great. This is for me. I'm making the right decision. And so I tell this story because to me, those last few weeks of shifting my perspective and shifting my mindset brought in spiritual, emotional, and physical abundance for me. A decision that once felt so complicated and courageous became so simple, like in the blink of an eye. To me, this is luxury living beyond material wealth. In divine timing, material luxury will follow. And what I realized is everything is temporary. The only constant is change. When we come to that realization and let go of the past or the future, the present, the true present really becomes our reality. And having the ability and the privilege to focus only on the present moment screams luxury to me. It provides us with the space to receive epiphanies, downloads from source, creative sparks, embodiment, and just to breathe. So this brings us to a close for today's episode. I hope it sparked a little inspiration. We talked about reframing luxury, why mindset and spirit matter, and my personal inspiration to speak on this topic. The next episode will cover limiting beliefs about wealth and practices to cultivate a wealth and abundance mindset. Thank you to everyone who tuned in today. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to DM me on my Instagram. The handle is It's Giving Luxury Podcast. And please leave a review as well as share this podcast with family and friends. We are on Apple and Spotify. I hope everyone has a great rest of the week and stay tuned for more content.